Welcome back to Become a Calm Mama. I'm your host. I'm Darlene Childress. And on today's episode, I've invited Amelia Knott to come and talk to us about the art of thriving online. Amelia is a registered psychotherapist and art therapist. And what she really is an expert in is helping us integrate our online life with our in real life and giving us tools to process how we think and feel about ourselves in the online space and in our real life. And in this conversation, we dive deep into different ways of exploring creativity, art, and just really practices for whole living. I really believe you're going to love this conversation. It really helps piggyback on some of the other things we've been talking about on the podcast recently, all about managing our screen time use, our kids' screen time and tech use, as well as getting into that default mode network that I talked about last week. So if you didn't listen to that episode, that's a great one to kind of give you an introduction about kind of what we're talking about when we teach our brain to relax. What are some best strategies to do that? So enjoy this episode with Amelia. All right. Well, welcome, Amelia Knott, to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. So thanks for being here.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here. I'm excited about our conversation.
Yeah. So why don't you introduce yourself? I've introduced you already in the intro, but just, tell us a little about yourself, your work, and kind of what brought you to this intersection that you work within.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm an art psychotherapist, and essentially that means I use the modality of art making, whether that's writing, collaging, painting, drawing, whatever creative medium, as a therapist. So that gets to be what is really the catalyst for change and insight with the clients I work with. And I came to this work really because I had some profound experiences as a young person where after some pretty significant grief and trauma, I had these opportunities to express myself creatively. And I found, and I think this is true for so many people, that a lot of our experiences are really hard to put into words, right? Whether that is grief or trauma, whether it's even positive things, language can feel quite limiting. And I think where art becomes really useful in terms of a healing journey is it can allow us to bypass the analytical and cognitive part of our brains. And we get to express something or explore something in a way that might be intuitive or unconscious or just regulating, right? Sometimes it feels really good just to scribble or do something with our hands. So I think it's a long way of saying I really came to this work because in my own life, art has given me safe passage through challenging experiences and really helped me to know myself deeply. And getting to do that in my work, I think, is such an incredible privilege. But when it comes to this intersection of
Well,
art
actually, I'm
and
going to pause you there because I want
technology,
to talk about it for a second. We'll do the
yeah,
intersection in
yeah.
a second. Because I was just thinking about the conversation around words. And I actually find it very easy to use words and language to communicate. And just always been a writer and journalist, journaler and all that. And I think partly why my work is really valuable is because I can put into words what people find really complicated to it's all messy inside and then they're not sure how to articulate it. And I'm interested in this conversation because I don't want to judge it. I use words a lot. I'm good at it. And it's easy for me to express myself that way. And not everyone has that access. And you're creating another access point to emotional regulation, communication, self-soothing, self-awareness. So I love it. And it's really not something that I have done really in my life. If someone invites me to an art thing, I just do it and then I get a star and I leave. It's not that meaningful to me. So I'm looking forward to this conversation and seeing, how I can maybe bring this into my own life and what it would offer. So yeah, I just thought I'd poke that in there. We all need to figure out ways to process our emotion and communicate and soothe. And there are many different, I use nature actually a lot more than even writing. I find nature is my creative expression in many ways. And so, yeah, I don't know, nature, art, words, journaling, talking. There's just different modalities. So I love it.
Well, I love that you use the word access point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, and maybe even for someone who loves words, I know lots of people, and I work with a lot of clients, especially women who use words and express with words all the time. Sometimes it's helpful to try like another vantage point to get to know something. Like maybe
Yeah.
there's an issue or a situation in our lives that we've kind of explored with words a lot and are still looking for a different way of seeing it. I think that's when art can be really useful because I think art has the capacity to surprise us, right? You might be working
Mhm.
on something and then step back and, oh my gosh, actually, I didn't see the way those colors interacted, or it kind of looks like a face or some kind of symbol in that corner over there. So I think it's a lovely compliment, right? And that's
Mhm.
what happens in art therapy too. It's not just the making, it's the talking, the
Mhm.
kind of setting up, getting to know each other. There's some kind of creative prompts, and
Yeah.
then how we talk about it and make meaning from what we're seeing in front of us. So it's a bit of a dance between
Mhm.
language, conversation, and the visual. But
Yeah.
I think about it as an extra tool in the tool belt for how we might know ourselves and be well.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. I was thinking about like the different prompts that I've had, like art prompts that have actually impacted me. I remember one time it was like, I don't know, I did draw this heart and it was like represent some part of the heart. And I noticed like mine was like really, really tiny, this like part
Mm.
in my heart that we drew. And then I like looked around and I was like, whoa, everybody did it way different. Like this little kernel thing, I wouldn't even give it voice or space in this drawing. And then that kind of was like, wow. So in my non-analytical space, I evaluated this part of my life as very small and minuscule and dark and quiet. And like, what if I brought that to more light and colored it differently? Yeah. So there's can be some really cool pieces that you can bring with good prompts and then a reflection from that. Yeah, it's not just
That's such a
scribble. Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a powerful process you're describing. And I think
Hmm.
the barrier many people feel to engaging in something creative or trying to use art as a therapeutic tool is this belief that, oh, I'm not necessarily trained or
I'm
skilled
not
or
an artist.
talented. I'm
Yeah,
not an
I'm not
artist, right?
creative. I don't know how to draw. Yeah. I mean, I have
So
all
many
those
people feel
all
that
that
way.
baggage for myself. Yeah, I think I'm not good at it at all. It's almost
Hmm.
comical the degree that I cannot draw. But that's not a obstacle or barrier to accessing this modality. So that's good for everyone to know, like who's listening, because they're like, "Oh, I'm not into art." It's like they like stop listening. It's like, no, 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 stay, hang out. So we got some good things to talk
Hmm.
about. Hmm.
Well, and that's, I think, one of the most important things too is what's different between, say, maybe like the art class in middle school that made you feel like you weren't a creative person, right? Or a class where a certain skill was being taught versus art therapy is we're looking so much more at how the process feels and
Hmm.
what we're seeing in the art afterwards. The
Hmm.
skill, not as important. The final product, not as important.
Yeah.
And like what you just described in that profound process, noticing,
Hmm.
oh, without thinking about it too much, I drew this heart as being small and chose these
Hmm.
colors. What
Hmm.
could that say about me? What meaning or metaphor am I finding in that?
Yeah.
That doesn't take incredible rendering skills. Like it always amazes me how much can come through in a crumpled piece of paper or a quick scribble, right? You
Hmm.
don't need
Hmm.
a fine art degree to do that.
Hmm. Yeah. So that's great. So we've already established what we've already got overcome one obstacle for everybody. So
Good.
good, good for us. So now your work is interesting to me because I think art therapy has a space for sure. We're talking about that. Um, but you have this kind of take on it, like the art of thriving online. That's the name of your workbook, and you really are evaluating or become bring awareness to how what our online world and our online existence, how it may be impacting us. And so I wondered if you could talk about, you know, that what you see in terms of we talked like could be social media, it could just be your phone distraction, it could be your email, it could be checking. I mean, I have moms what they're one of their stressors is not overusing Instagram or overusing, some sort of social media. It's a mom's messages, the text group chains. And
Group chats are awful. Can we just agree on that? Useful and a wonderful place to gather. But yeah, there's
it's
so much
like
that's happening in a group
the
chat like that.
classroom WhatsApp
Ooh,
conversation, or if you get into leadership in a school and all of a sudden you're in like the PFA or PTA or whatever the mom's volunteer organization, and then there's a lot of discussion about like what kind of pumpkin muffins you should bring to the thing, and if they should be store bought or not, and like if they should be organic and not. It is a whole world unto itself. Just that WhatsApp text, and it can be. This happens to the young girls. I'm going ahead of you, but I noticed that with like coaching parents of teenagers that the when the parent takes the phone away, and which is great, big fan of screen time limits, but it creates a lot of anxiety that you are not in a conversation that is happening.
aha.
It's like being in the schoolyard and seeing a group of 20 girls having a conversation in the corner, and you're picking up trash from detention and you don't know what they're doing. And you're terrified they're talking about you, or they're making plans for the weekend that you're not going to be invited in, or they're talking about a boy or a girl or whatever. And that's what happens when you're young. And then when you're in the mom world, dear God, you can't let your kid get out of the thing, or like you're really worried about something and you want to make sure it's like hypervigilance, and
Yeah.
our it's so much of a distraction. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about what you're seeing in the online space and how what you do with your art and your therapy and what you help people with.
Mhm. Well, I think what you're naming, right? This paradox that we're all experiencing, whether we're teenagers just learning to use it as a social tool, whether we're parents who have like 40 messages in the group chat, it's hard to put our time online, whether that's social media, whether that's the text or whatever it is we're doing on a screen. It's really hard to put that just into one box,
Yeah, you can't just be like
right?
screen time.
Is bad or good. It's both. And I think something that's really helpful is to recognize that, right? There's parts of it that can feel really challenging, really stressful by design, right?
Mm.
Platforms that we're
Say
using
more
are
about by design, please.
right. I mean, social media platforms, e-commerce websites, news websites. I mean, basically everything we interface with on a screen is designed to keep us engaged as long as possible, right? That's where this term persuasive technology comes in. So the fact that in your Facebook or Instagram feed, you can scroll forever and ever and
Mhm,
ever.
mhm. You used to come to the end of it. But
Hmm.
like, I'm much older than you, and so I was an adult when I started to use these apps, and the beginning, and it was like that's the end of your feed. So if you only had maybe 12 friends or 45 friends and maybe 7 had posted something, you would read 7 posts and that would be the end of your feed. Like it
Hmm.
literally did end, where you could get to like, if I have a homework assignment, I have 20 uh number, I have 20 problems to do. I can finish and be like, check box. I did it. And I get a little dopamine and I get a little bit like whoop whoop and I move on. But I don't, I can never achieve my Instagram feed. I can, because
No,
it's
no.
permanent forever, goes on and on and on. I have to just decide to stop.
Which is challenging, right? Another thing that
Mhm,
it's designed to do is make it hard to stop, right? There's
mhm.
no limit to what we could discover or feel inspired by. Like I'm thinking of how hard it is to stop scrolling Pinterest, and that's just
Yeah.
like craft ideas. But
Yes.
there's also no limit to what we could miss. I'm
Oh,
thinking
I'm
back
sure
to that
you're a big
example of the
Pinterest
teenage.
person
Oh,
because of
I love
the art.
Pinterest.
Isn't it funny how you start to like wonder what people are really like, what they spend a lot of time on? Yeah, I
Oh,
could see
that's the
that.
big one for me. So
Yeah, of
that's, I mean,
course.
maybe that's the scale, right? I love the fact that there's a social media platform like Pinterest that can show me endless examples of beautiful creative ideas. And on the other side, there's another app or another platform that can show me all the parties I wasn't invited to, all the ideas
Mhm,
someone had that were better articulated than mine, right?
mhm.
The FOMO is never ending. And
Oh,
then the
God.
possibility for discovering something new or people like us or
Mhm.
being inspired and connected also feels limitless. So I think something that's really important, at least in the way I like to talk about this conversation, is let's validate both that our
Yeah.
time online is harmful and it's also deeply meaningful. So
Yeah.
how do we hold that paradox, right?
Mhm, mhm.
I think the pandemic really changed something for many of us where we started using the internet in a different way, whether our jobs went online or whether that was just the easiest way to connect with other people or stay tethered in our relationships. I know that's kind of when in my life it stopped feeling like the internet was kind of optional.
Hmm.
But I think in this era where our lives are so entangled with these tools, it's more useful to find a way to collaborate with them, to hold the messiness of the fact that it's not one thing or another. And that's where I think art is a really useful tool, right? What helps us hold opposites?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's visual, right? What helps
Hmm.
us grapple with two things being true at once? How do we reckon with the fact that we're using a tool that we don't have much control over, right? Art is this thing that gives us the ability to practice agency. Like we can take materials and do what we want to them. There might not
Mm.
be a lot of other places in our lives, especially if we're parenting, where we
Yeah.
get to control things. But art can be that.
Mm-hmm. Or you, at least you think, I'm going to draw a sun. And then you're like, well, that didn't come out like a sun. So you
Or
think
lose control.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It
Yeah.
can be
Or like,
both, right?
oh, wow, how do I accept the fact that I thought it was going to look like this and it's not? And that's a huge part of parenting, actually, is like, I just spent time with one of my best friends, and we were going to have babies together, and we had this big vision of what it was going to look like. And it was like we were going to look gorgeous walking down a boardwalk, the baby's in front of us, perfectly coiffed hair and nails, and just look amazing. Like that was as far as we got in terms of parenting. And we just did the same walk and our kids are grown and we're just laughing at ourselves, like what we thought it was going to be and like what it really
Mhm.
was. And I think that happens in art. How do you reconcile that? That happens with 7-year-old perfectionists, right? Who get an art assignment from school or, some kind of writing prompt and then it's trash and they throw it away. And it's like, how can we kind of integrate that dissonance? I thought it was going to be this way and it's not. I thought I
Mm.
was going to draw the sun and it wasn't like this. I think that is another avenue that art could really help us accept and like make beauty out of it anyway. Keep going.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
I mean, for adults and kids, right? If you're in
Hmm.
school or if you have a high pressure job, there might not be a lot of places in your life where you get to practice being imperfect without consequences.
Yeah.
So what if art could be the refuge from the pressure to hustle, to
Hmm.
finish things on a
Hmm.
deadline, to be perfect all the time? Maybe your art is the place where there's no pressure to get better or even show it to anybody.
Yeah.
So I think a way of rewriting the stories of perfectionism with ourselves is allowing perhaps creativity to be this outlet where it can be different, right? We
Hmm.
can do something differently than we get to do in the other areas of our lives.
Yeah. That's so great. So we have this online world. We're reconciling the fact that some of it's great, some of it's not great. What are some of the downsides of having a lot of our foot in the online world and maybe less of a foot in our regular analog, like actual human experience?
Mhm.
What's that tension and like what's the drawbacks of it, in your opinion?
I mean, I think a lot of us know them intuitively,
Yeah.
right? If we've spent the last 10 or 20 years online. But I mean, the ones that really come up for me and thinking about the context of parenting too is I mean, our attention is fractured when we're picking up a screen that is distracting us in 10 different ways at once. We're being fed information that is designed to be as captivating as possible. And usually that means activating, right? So
Mhm.
content that is inflammatory, divisive, negative, scary is
Mhm.
usually pushed out more readily than something positive and hopeful.
Right, right.
And another piece, I think, is the comparison, right? How
Hmm.
many how many women have you talked to who were perhaps one of the 15% of us who will end up experiencing postpartum depression, go
Hmm.
through their Instagram seeing momfluencers who are back to their,
Yeah.
pre-pregnancy weight
Pre-mom
and
or bod and yeah, like just, they're showing what my friend and I made up in our heads because there was no internet, no social media then. We made it up in our heads that we were going to be so gorgeous walking our babies in our stroller and just like having it completely together. That was a fantasy that was ridiculous, but I didn't get to see it portrayed on the internet and then compare myself to it. It
Hmm.
because it wasn't something that actually existed on the internet. There really wasn't. This was before iPhones, which is a hard thing to imagine. But when I had my kids in 2004, 2006, there was no iPhone yet. So we didn't have the internet in our pocket and there wasn't social media till like 2008, 2009. So those for early years, in many ways, I only had people in real life to compare to, which
Hmm.
isn't necessarily healthy, but it wasn't some sort of photoshopped smokescreen situation on Instagram or wherever. So yeah, it's a lot of pressure to look at that and think, I should be doing it differently or better or some, can really be
Yeah.
devastating.
What's wrong with me that my infant isn't sleeping through the night? Or
Yeah.
I should be able to wake up at 5 and make the organic baby food from scratch, and my relationship should be perfect and romantic in this era, or whatever the
Yes.
image
Like you
we're
can
being
have it
fed
all
is.
type of situation. And it's like, I just want a good night's sleep. Is that what all of it is? Can I just get to sleep to 7, please? Yeah. And that's like your only goal in life. It's just sleep. So
Yeah,
that's, yeah, you're not, your bare minimum is so low when you have young children that then you look around and you're like, wow, I'm barely surviving. And yet this is the ideal. And it's just not true, but it sells.
exactly.
Hmm.
Right. It can be so damaging when, especially if we're isolated, I think, in early
Yeah.
parenthood, and all the examples of what being a mother or a parent look like are curated. Maybe there's a production team behind the
Hmm.
scenes. Maybe there's a full-time nanny and a full-time cleaner,
Hmm.
right? Maybe there's an editor or whatever else is going on.
Yeah.
But to
Good
compare
cameras,
ourselves to that,
filters. Yeah.
all
Mics.
of
Yeah. All
that.
of it. Uh-huh.
And I
Yeah.
mean, I also want to give credit to the other side. I think there's also the potential for incredible universality and like reduction in stigma. I think there's so many
Mhm.
more conversations that are really easily accessible for people about mental health through
Yeah.
parenthood, and the the challenges that people experience when they're going through that life transition,
Yeah.
and calling out some of the toxic cultural pieces that we're starting to undo the programming of. So I think on one hand, there's the potential for connecting and having a different kind of conversation that's really real. And then there's also the curated side. So again, it's
Yeah.
holding the paradox, but back to, what the risk of these platforms is it messes with our attention, it sets an
Hmm.
unrealistic standard, it might give us this sense that the world is more divided and scary and dangerous than it actually is. It can take away our sense of privacy.
Hmm.
There's so many places
Yeah.
that social media can have an adverse effect on our
Social media
well-being.
slash news slash,
Hmm.
you know, messaging apps. Like it can kind of go on because I can get, maybe I'm like, I'm not going to go on for millennials and Gen X, Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, right? But then the younger generations, it's definitely Snapchat, Discord, like they have different ways to communicate. So it's not necessarily the social media, but I could decide I'm not going to do those things, but I may still find myself deep scroll in a web search, Google search type of thing, and now I'm like
Hmm.
trying to solve a problem in my life. And I'm just, reading article after article or snippets of an article. It's like, it can be this thing that we go to get our emotional needs met. And
Hmm.
whether it's through the platforms or just even checking your email or like false productivity where you think you're kind of doing something, but you're really not. You're just trying to manage dopamine, manage cortisol, trying to get these little hits all the time. And I was thinking about how, like, all the emotional problems of the phone are true, but the attention one is also really important. And I did an episode on task positive network and default mode network and talked about how
Hmm.
we are not able to stay in high task for a long period of time because our brains really haven't practiced. And so then we go into our phone, we get distracted really easily. A text comes through or something, a ding, a notification of some kind. Now we're back in our phone. and you're not really creating a lot of productivity, true productivity in your life. I think as moms, a lot of the overwhelm with like, I've got so much shit going on. I'm so busy. Like this, I have to be in three places at once. True. Sometimes you do have to be, if you're three kids and they all have to be picked up at 3 o'clock, you literally have to be at three places at once. But I think the overwhelm is often because you're underproductive when you have
Mhm.
child free time, or you haven't trained your children to not need you when they're around you. So they don't know how to deal with their boredom or deeper play or deeper creativity. You end up not ever finishing stuff. And that can feel so frustrating. And it's like another drawback of just having technology. It's like this influence on us that pulls us away from maybe what we really, uh, what would serve us the most. So I don't know if you see that
Mhm.
in your work, like that feeling of overwhelm may be solved by slowing down, connecting to ourselves through art, putting our phones away. And yeah, I don't know. Speak about that a little bit.
I see that in my work and I see that in myself. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's significantly harder to regulate myself or to make what might be the most effective choice when I'm feeling overwhelmed or when I need to focus if I have like the phone right beside me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of us have experienced kind of this injury of attention, right? We know the dopamine hit or the sense of satisfaction is quick and easy on the screen, but regulating ourselves, whether that's in art or being in nature or just letting
Or being in
ourselves
flow. Like
or being in flow.
I'm gonna make all these doctor's appointments, or I'm gonna sign my kids up for summer camp, or if I can't sit quietly and get through that work, make the decisions, think about, okay, in June, do I want to drop off at 9? Like these are questions you have to ask yourself as a mom. It's like random, but you're in February. You have to slow down and really kind of do some self inquiry. Like, okay, what is best for the doctor's appointments? It's okay, Fridays, that's good. And then you're thinking really clearly. And then you're in that, like, oh, got that, settled that, signed up for that. And then when you're done, you're like, oh, okay, I did so much of the stuff. And you can be present with the next set of tasks, your children or homemaking or your own career or whatever it is. I just think we're so not accustomed to spending time getting something done all at once. It's so
Mhm.
fragmented and that interruption. And I wanted you to come on here because I would imagine, and I joined your program because I'm really curious about what this might look like for me. But dedicating kind of an hour of my life to open art, creativity, expression, being in a community that's doing the same thing. I'm so interested in what that will be like. Instead of, I'm very productive, I can focus really easily, and not everyone can. But what does it look like for free flow? Because when you're in that default mode, free flow creativity, it can dip to problems like negative thinking.
Mhm.
And I might be soothing my negative thinking through tasks. But what if I sit without a phone, without tasks? I'm so curious to see what would happen. In nature, I can do it. I'm very like creative and thinking of like cool things that are happening in my life. I'm not like hiking going, my life sucks and my husband's a dick. And da, da, da. I'm not usually thinking negative thoughts in nature. But yeah, I wonder what you see when someone dedicates time to that art experience or their art therapy experience. What happens?
I think it's a similar headspace. And you mentioned like the default mode network before. And if anyone's just learning about this concept, it's where our brains go when we're not actively involved in a specific task, right?
Yeah.
It's the daydreaming or the letting our minds wander, which is
Hmm.
what happens, say, if you're on a hike alone or perhaps making art, but choosing not to listen to a podcast at the same time and try to multitask, right? And in that space, I think something really profound can happen, right? Other ideas or reflections can start to get integrated, right? I love, for example, if I have a therapy session for myself,
Hmm.
taking some time just to make art afterwards instead of trying to quickly jot down the notes about what happened or make sense of it. If I give myself even 20 minutes just to make something without a plan, my
Mm.
brain's going to naturally start to make sense of it and reorganize whatever just happened. And I
Yeah.
think that ability to give ourselves space to make sense of our lives and let that happen at an organic pace and allow those insights, those reflections, that meaning to arrive without it being forced,
Hmm.
that's something we lose when at every possible turn, we pick up the phone to
Yeah.
avoid ourselves or to avoid boredom. We lose that that mind wandering, that daydreaming. So having that time protected for art, I know for me is I think where I do a lot of the integrating and processing of all the other stuff that's happening in life at any given moment.
Yeah. Yeah. It really can be like the value of walking, like people, I walk a lot of walking practice. And I also have an exercise practice, which I find that when I'm in high cardio exercise, for me, I don't think.
Hmm.
It's like I once asked myself, like, when are you not thinking? And I noticed it was like high exercise, sex, swinging my kid on the swing, and throwing the ball to the dog. And it was like these periods of time where I was like in my body, in a rhythm, in like kind of consumed physically and not, I was like kind of like not absencing myself, but just sort of free from my head. I was like kind of in my body. Just then noticing like, oh, that happens when I'm in nature. That happens, when I'm in a real deep fiction book. Like I'm just
Yeah.
kind of in that,
Yeah.
I'm there. I'm like, all of a sudden I have a string. It's measuring the length of my life. Like I'm whatever book I'm reading, I'm like super in it. Um, I think that art is a space that I was undervalued in that is an available place where we can just not be in our head.
Flow, I think, is the opposite of scrolling. And
Yeah.
that doesn't need to be making a giant abstract painting. It doesn't need to be drawing something. I think sometimes my favorite way to get into that headspace is to do a kind of creative practice where the decisions are already made for me. Like, love a paint by numbers, love a coloring
Mm-hmm.
book, love crocheting, maybe
Yeah.
without a pattern or without a plan, something that's rhythmic and repetitive, tactile, right?
Yeah.
Where you're not analyzing or choosing or needing to be the problem solver for a moment, but you're just engaged in the same way you might be
Hmm.
out for a walk or running or
Yeah.
in any of those other like physical flow states.
Yeah. That's so beautiful because yeah, paint by number. I mean, it's true. It's like we don't need to think that silly pants or whatever. It's like, no, you just kind of make a decision. You're just rhythmically filling in all the twos with red. And it just like that's your big task. And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, look, all the reds are done. I don't see any twos. Oh, okay. Like, and then
How's that
kind
for
of,
dopamine, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
very
exactly. It's
satisfying.
so satisfying. And it's not, yeah, it's for no reason, which is great. I just think, yeah. I liked also you talked about that you help people become the author of your own definition of wellness. I would love for you to talk about that because I think that's really the phrasing was so beautiful to me. The author of your own definition of wellness. And I'm defining what I have found is wellness for me. But I love that you're like, nope, everybody's got to figure that out, or you can. It's available to you to define that. So
Mm,
say what that is to you.
I think something really important to me in writing something that lives in the self-help genre was making sure that I wasn't making assumptions about anybody's experience, right?
Hmm.
Like, I don't believe in the realm of healing, in the realm of wellness, that there are any one size fits all solutions. It can be really tempting to, buy the book with a 10-step plan and
Yeah.
get through it, or maybe even do the 10 steps for a period of time, but then to feel like a total failure if you can't do it in this prescribed way, or you can't maintain
Hmm.
the inertia of somebody else's idea of what will make us well.
Yeah.
And I think what is way more useful than finding the right set of habits, refining our ability to be disciplined, or getting it right per se by someone else's definition of wellness, to really look inward and figure out, like, what does it mean for me to feel well? Maybe that is really different than it was 5 years ago. Maybe it's different from my spouse. Maybe it's different from, the advice that I'm seeing on social media all the
Yeah.
time.
Right. Well, and you hear that like people are like, this is how I mean, I'm a big advice giver. I have a podcast that I mostly talk about my ideas. When we sit quietly and we talk to women about the way they interpret that advice, it's like, I don't have the capacity for that. I can't. What does it mean to me to be, how will I know if I'm well? And how do I want to get there? Yeah.
I like
Hmm.
that. How will I know if I'm well?
Yeah.
Right?
What are the standards? Like I get to define that too.
And maybe it's different from what I've been aiming for my entire life. I think
Right. Like,
that's,
oh, well, I'll know I'm well if I have a clean house and well behaved kids and I am a size blankety blank and I
yes.
don't know, wear just the right amount of makeup or something. It's like that's the worst definition of wellness, all those things. What do I know? And I think it could be a conversation around values. Like, am I content? Am I calm? Am I satisfied? Am I curious? Do I have clarity when it's time to make a decision? If those are the gaps, then that is good clue to me that I have some work to do. But I think if we just define not so much the process, but what are the things that we're working towards in our lives that would create more wellness? Yeah.
And if we don't author those definitions for ourselves, then the default is going to be whatever performs well in an algorithm. And
Oh
because,
God.
the wellness sphere exists online, right? Social media is photos and videos. It's really defined by what can be shown, performed, seen,
Hmm.
less what can be felt or experienced, right? There's a reason when I search hashtag wellness on social media, I get green smoothies,
Yep.
exercise routines, thin white
Supplements.
bodies,
Yeah. Supplements.
supplements,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
right? Things that can be sold, performed, shown.
Yeah.
Whereas, actually, and maybe I'll use the example, my favorite or one of my favorite activities in the book is looking at like your metrics of success, right?
Hmm.
Like for many of us, it's things that can be counted like the number on the scale, the number in the bank account, the number of followers. But what else can you count that points towards the things that you really value? How
Hmm.
many books have you read with your kids this week? How many
Hmm.
lines of a poem are in your notes app? How many coffee
Hmm.
mugs are beside your reading chair? Like, how do we want to
Hmm.
measure well-being that points back to what actually feels good in our bodies, in our relationships, not just what social media or the culture tells us, right?
Yeah. I decided to listen to 10 minutes of Bach a day. I heard
Mm.
somebody suggest it, like a celebrity of some kind. And I was like, I don't know. I'm gonna try that. And it became really delightful and interesting. And then I would end up listening to more. But then there'd be days where like, oh, I forgot to listen to my Bach today. And then I'm like, oh, get back to that tomorrow. Then I was like, it was like a month of that. And I thought, should I listen to Mozart? Should I do 1 month of Mozart now? Like I was just kind of this my own little weird world thing that I was doing just to see for myself. Yeah. I was
And
like,
so your own definition also included the rhythm that felt right. It didn't have
yes.
to be every day I'm checking off the box or giving myself the star in the chart,
Hmm.
but also being gentle around, like, oh, I didn't do it today.
Yeah.
That
Oh, I
doesn't say anything
forgot.
about my value.
Yeah. I forgot. I forgot. Oh, yeah, I was going to do that. Oh, yeah. Let's do that again. Let's see. And like maybe I do it for a little while. I'm like, well, that was dumb. Didn't meant nothing to me. So then that's not a thing
Hmm.
for me. I'm not sure yet because it's been a long enough time. Yes, I love that. Like finding your own little things. I decided this year that I want to hike every Sunday morning,
Hmm.
almost like a spiritual practice of some
Yeah,
sort.
beautiful.
And then I was going to see my friend, and I said, would you be willing to do a hike when we see each other? And she said, oh, I love that. I was like, okay, great, because I wanted to like make sure I kind of bring that in. So, yeah, yeah, can I make that be? Did I do it? Did I say what I was going to do? And yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting. It's not about did I sell 17 spots in my group program or whatever. I don't, those things end up not feeling satisfying. And
Hmm.
yeah, but especially how many minutes did I spend on Instagram? No one's going to gauge that and be like, oh, I was so successful. I did 3.5 hours of screen time. It's like, defining it in ways that are a little bit more unique or interesting to us or, yeah.
I think you're hitting at something really important. The flexibility that comes along with it. I think when it comes to authoring our own definitions of wellness, it's also allowing ourselves the grace that that will change and evolve. Maybe this
Mhm.
week it's listening to Bach, maybe next month it's hiking,
Mhm.
allowing it to evolve as we evolve and learn about what suits our nervous systems, our families, our needs, and also allowing that to change as often as it needs to. It's not a sign of failure if we can't keep the, habit of waking up at 4 in the morning going for years and years at a time. I think when our habits change or when our wellness practices change, that can also be an indication that we're paying attention to what
Yeah.
is useful. Like, oh, something is different in this era of my life, and I'm attuned enough to myself that I had the flexibility to change with it. That's not
Yeah.
a failure, that's me evolving and keeping up with
And no, yeah,
myself.
not comparing, right? I was just thinking, like, I have this friend who loves Pilates, and I tried a little bit. And I just don't. I just don't. I don't. I like yoga-ish. Like, I don't. Super good. I'm sure I've done it tons and tons of times. I've never created a really regular practice about it. It might not be my thing. Like, I'm happy to do it, but it's not maybe my thing. And that doesn't mean, oh, well, you don't drink green smoothies and do yoga and I don't know, meditate, even meditate. That's the thing you got to do. Meditation is just awareness of thinking. That's it.
Mhm.
Catching yourself when you've got a runaway train of thoughts and bringing them back. That's it. That's all it is. So if that happens in art, great. That happens in walking, great. That happens in while cooking, excellent.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's like we can find that ourselves. So I love that becoming the author of our own definition of wellness. It's so beautiful.
And it
Um,
reminds me a little bit, like what you just said. And speaking of all the pressure we experience, before my wedding, when everyone's experiencing the pressure leading up to that day and what that's supposed to be, I signed up for these boot camp workout classes. I was
you're
doing
gonna
them in
get
the
super fit.
mornings.
You're gonna get super fit.
The classic story. I thought I would be a chill bride. I was not. But my sister-in-law asked me about these boot camp classes, like, oh, do you like it? And I kind of was stopped in my tracks, like, oh my God, I don't like them. I didn't even think to check in if I liked it. It was
Uh-huh.
just the
Uh-huh.
class that was available within walking distance from my house. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I don't have to do something I don't like.
I don't, yes, it's so
What a
good. It's so
revelation.
beautiful. Yeah. I just am in empty nest now. My youngest went to college. So this is like I'm in this very sweet little transition time. And I just keep asking myself, what do you want to do? What do you want to do?
What a beautiful question.
Hmm. It's been really interesting because when you're a mom, a lot of times for many years, you're thinking, what do they want to do? What do they need me to do? What would make them happy? And not even like in a weird, codependent, gross, dysfunctional, toxic way. I think as a parent, you kind of just get very focused on tending to the needs of other
Hmm.
people. Like kind of part of the job in some way. You get a human who can't take care of themselves, you take care of them. Eventually they can take care of themselves and they leave. That's the whole thing. So you're taking care of them and then you can easily lose sight of who you are in the process, you know. I think the art could be very good for people who are in that everyone's listening like I don't have time for this shit that you do because you don't want to get to the end of the line and be like, who am I? What do I like? What's what? Like, I've been asking these questions all along, being very curious and interested. This is where I just really don't have to think about anyone else's needs. And I'm married still, and he's like, "Wait, what's happening?" I'm like, I'm done caregiving in general." So sorry, Mister. Um, but it has really been cool, like that question, like, do I like this type of exercise? Do I like this type of, some of my friends are like, I don't like hiking. I'm like, really? How could you possibly not? And they're like, I don't, it's nothing about, I don't like it. Dirt, sweat, whatever. They want to do something else. And that's fine. We all get to decide. And we need to allow ourselves space to explore. It's such a beautiful invitation to explore with art, with nature, with journaling, with inquiry in any other way, with music. I don't know what else. Cooking, homemaking. I talk a lot about creating little moments of delight around your house. Just like little things, not to be consumeristic and like go buy a bunch of shit at TJ Maxx. Not really that. It's like if you see a flower in your yard and you clip it and then you find like, I don't know, whatever cup and you put it in there, you did that. And then it's like you walk by it and you're like, oh, that's my flower. It made me so happy. We can create all these beautiful little moments of delight in our life. How do you sit quietly in the sun with a cup of tea and just be and slowing down and doing art and participating in your programs is such a beautiful way to, create those little moments and access that even greatly. So tell us about your book a little bit because it's really not just you read it. It's like it's a workbook or work art. I don't know. You describe it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was important to me that it be interactive in the same way we're talking about authoring your own definition of wellness.
Hmm.
It would be one thing for me to tell some stories, offer some research, give some advice, but it's so much more profound when that is integrated with people's own journaling and reflection, with their own art, so that they get to learn something about themselves that came from them, not me making any assumption about what's true for them. So, The Art of Thriving Online, this workbook is about using creativity to kind of reckon with your relationship with your time online, with social media. So, looking at how it impacts your attention, how you feel about productivity, privacy. There's pieces on comparison and fear, anger, disinformation, those emotions. And then it ends with conversations about place, right? Being in nature, being embodied, and belonging ultimately. And so in each of the chapters, there's research, writing, kind of some of my own personal stories, and lots of art and writing prompts designed to help you get a sense of what feels true and correct and needed for you. And then the book ends with kind of taking those reflections in to one kind of final personal statement, which I like to call a gentle manifesto, right? Because it's gentle, right? It can be
Hmm. Hmm.
disciplined or it can be free flowing, it can change. But the idea really is to gather together all of these reflections and expressions that you've had about this conversation, about social media and your well being, and come to a gentle conversation with yourself about what you want, what feels good, what doesn't, what it could look like, but without the rigidity of here's a digital detox, here's a new plan, here's how you have to do it or change.
Oh, so beautiful. So where can people get that? Is it on like regular Amazon type of stuff, or do you have to go to your website? What's the story?
Yep, you can find it wherever you like to buy books, the big
Mhm.
websites. You can find it or request it from your local bookstore or library. It's also available in ebook, and I narrate the audiobook as well. So if you're a person who likes to process information in terms of audio, then that's an
Mhm.
option also available to you.
Oh, that's fun. Okay, good. So it's The Art of Thriving Online by Amelia Knott. So look that up. And then tell us a little bit about your group program because I just joined it and I'm I'm just really curious about it. So I wondered if you wanted to talk about that at all.
Yeah, I was so excited to see your name in the registration. But Anti-Hustle Art Studio is a program that, I mean, truthfully, I started because I needed the accountability of having something on the calendar every week.
Mhm.
But the idea with that group is there are drop-in sessions twice a week on Zoom. There's a theme. So, for example, this week's theme was befriending boredom, very apt
Mhm.
for our conversation. And there are art prompts. And you can take them or leave them. It's an hour where you can explore the topic that's been offered in art, no special materials or skills required, or you can just use the space to work on something you've been meaning to work on. Maybe it's journaling or working on your Christmas gifts or whatever it is.
Mhm.
But I think for so many of us, just having the time carved out and knowing that other people are showing up, like that gentle accountability is, for me at least, what helps me stay in my creative practices. So
Mhm.
gentle in
Mhm.
the sense that you don't have to follow the prompts, you don't have to have your camera on, you don't have to show your art or connect with anybody. But the space is there just to have a consistent practice of hanging out with yourself through something creative.
Yeah, I love it. It's so beautiful. Well,
Yeah. And so
thank you
that's
so
every
much.
Tuesday evening and Wednesday morning.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to do the
Mhm.
Tuesday. I'm doing the Tuesday evenings. Anybody want to join us? The Anti-Hustle Art
Art
Studio.
studio.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it's not very expensive. It's like $25 a month or something like that. Yeah. So it's like my program. It's $30 a month. So we are trying to make these things affordable, ladies, so that everyone can get access to them.
Yeah. I'll also say
Wonderful.
just one more thing about
Yeah.
Anti-Hustle Art Studio as well. If you ever can't attend, some people want to do the prompts on their own time. So you'll get an
Mhm.
email every week with some reflection prompts, some art prompts. So come and go as you please. But anyway, that's
Yeah,
just
that's good. Yeah, because
a little bit
maybe
about it.
you can't. And also get the workbook if you're not interested in doing a group, just kind of like
Mhm.
diving into some of this work. I think it's just another avenue to explore ourselves. And I think anytime we can build in, it's like when we have a habit, being on our phone, being online, watching TV, binge watching or whatever it is, or reading or whatever we do. And and then we want to change that. You really do need to replace it. Like the urge is there, and then we train ourselves to do something different. And when you have a program like or a workbook or the, anti-hustle art studio, that you're really teaching yourself what to do instead and
Mhm.
integrating those new practices. Like, oh, I want to do, oh yeah, I'm not doing that anymore, or I'm not doing that as much. So what else am I supposed to do here? And it needs to be gentle because otherwise your brain will give up. We do need, it's sad that we need people out in the world saying, do this instead, but it's true. We're so reliant on the phone and online worlds that we've kind of forgotten the other ways that humans can explore themselves. And yeah.
We need community. We need other people. I think
Yeah.
that's so often the answer to what happens when we're feeling disconnected or disjointed or not at home in ourselves. Sometimes it's a new habit or a hack, but oftentimes it's like, where are my people? Where can I be either in conversation, in connection, or just like sharing space with people? That's what I
Mhm.
find so useful about that group specifically, or
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking like for the holiday season, if people purchased your book and they got a couple copies and they give it to a couple friends or their family members and like, you guys want to do this and talk about it and kind of create conversation and dialogue in your own community with that, it's kind of perfect right now in the season. So good.
yeah. And
I
you will
love
find a
it.
book club guide in the back of the book as well. There is
Oh
some
goodness. There's
step-by-step
even a
options
book
for how
club
to
guide.
how to get together, the art projects you can do as a collective.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it's designed to
goodness.
do alone, but there's also lots of stuff you can do together.
Oh, it's even getting better. So to highly recommend. Wonderful.
Mhm.
Well, thanks, Amelia. How can people find you, follow you besides purchasing and joining your club? But like if they just want to check you out online, what should they
Yeah,
do?
come find me on social media. Given this whole conversation about showing up online, I spend a lot of time on Instagram and TikTok. My handle is at Art Therapy IRL, or
Mhm.
IRL for in real life.
Mhm.
And my website is arttherapyinreallife.com.
Art therapy in real life. I love it. Okay, well, thank you so much. Hey, Mama, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, I want to encourage you to do two things. The first is go to my website, calmmamacoaching.com, and get a copy of the Stop Yelling cheat sheet. You'll get a step-by-step breakdown of the most important tool I teach, which is the pause break. And you'll also get 40 ideas to reset your body and balance your nervous system so you don't have to yell at your kids. You can get a copy of that again at my website, calmmamacoaching.com/stop yelling. The other thing I'd love for you to do is go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast so that other moms can discover empowering and helpful, practical parenting strategies just like you did today. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. It means a lot to be in your ear every week and to support you on your parenting journey.